It is my great pleasure. But Nick actually founded this group. He deserves all credit for it. He's leaving us soon, but all credit to him. His presentation on debugging.
Thanks, Aaron. So, I guess long time no see. I haven't been coming on Wednesday nights because I have uni from 5:30 to 9:30. It's a real pain in the ass and do my last two subjects. So the pain is almost over and then I'm heading off, so very much looking forward to that. I might encourage you guys just to come forward a little bit because we're pretty much going to be looking at source the whole time, so if you're right at the back you just might not see anything. My presentation is it's debugging Android, but basically I kind of wanted to, I spent about half a day or a day looking at the memory tools that Android provides, the SDK, and some that are external as well as part of like an equipped plugin. And it took me a little while and they weren't that great, and I just thought, well, I could probably save you a few hours if you run into the same problem, so that's what we're going to cover. Coincidentally, it's on Listviews and Bitmaps, which I have to tell you, that was my idea first. I don't know where Max will be, but
I didn't know that.
I something else. Right, so anyway, now it'll be reinforcing hopefully so we can build on what you guys covered earlier. So I built an app which basically just, the review, just to get into the mindset is, imagine that you've got like a list and you're scrolling through that list, so you're going to be using the pattern you saw before, which is that list view with an adapter, so converting an array, say for example of bitmaps, into views, and you're trying to optimize the list view is optimized so that you can scroll really quickly. Imagine then that some of those bitmaps have to be fetched over a network, and you don't want to be performing this all the time if you can, so you probably want to cache those locally, say for example on disk or in memory if which is what this example does, but that's probably not what you should do. So the things we're going to cover are, just basically the actual code to produce this, the test cases that I wrote to simulate some rotations, and the memory tools, which is a third-party plugin. So that's basically the three things we're going to cover. So this is what the app looks like, and as I scroll through the app, it's just got images, and I wish I could show you the app running live, but this will do for now. So that's what it looks like. The source, if we just start with perhaps with the XML, and I imagine you saw something like this earlier, but basically just shows you, it's a standard list view. It has a couple of properties there. There's nothing too special about this. It's got the ID list, so that when you call get list view later on within the activity, it knows what it's looking for. This is image activity, which just extends from that list activity, and it basically just has a reference to the list view itself, and then it sets an adapter on that. And the adapter is what we'll spend most of the time looking at.
Nick, I didn't talk about this music.
Oh, you did?
I changed my topic.
Oh, did you? Okay, cool.
All I did was a bit about bitmaps.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. Well, the list view, as I said, is that scrolling item. So there's not really that much to it. The key part of this is always in the adapter, and it's always the bit you have to customize, because there is the base class which has the methods that you need to implement, but they're just stubs, so they have the names, but there's no actual implementation. That's what you have to do yourself. So in our adapter, and we extend from this base adapter class, which, as I said, just implements an interface, the adapter interface, and then so it is an actual concrete class, but you have to write what's inside those methods yourself. And what we're doing in this case is trying to adapt the hash map, which contains the bitmaps, into a view, and the view is what the list view knows how to use. And what this does is that it continuously adds those bitmaps, as if we're pretending that we fetch them over a network, to a static hash, which will just continue to grow in size, and I put no code in there that dumps anything, so it will eventually run out of memory. If we just keep putting images into that adapter, and they are too big, as pictures sometimes are, we'll just run out of memory. And this is something that I ran into, and I might have touched on some of this stuff before, but so bitmaps are allocated outside of the VM. So when we go into the memory management tools later on, you'll be looking at it, you think, well, this is how much has been allocated, and this is how much space I've got left, but bang, you're crashing. So this kind of demonstrates some of that kind of stuff. one thing that I want to mention, because it took me a little while to get my head around this when I was just starting out, is this convert view pattern. So what happens is, if you imagine you've got 4 views in your list, when you scroll, what it tries to do, instead of inflating another view, is it tries to pass through a view that you've already inflated before. So, and that is what that convert view is. So if it's found to be null, you will inflate it. So say that the ones that are visible will be inflated 4 times. And what the adapter allows you to do, or what the view allows you to do there, is to set a tag. And the tag is basically just an object that has references to each of the subviews within inside that layout that was inflated. So every time you get the convert view back, you check to see whether that tag is there, and if you can, you try and use those instead of inflating it every single time.
Just like my
Right.
table example.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, that pattern is used all the time, and yeah, it's an important one to know. So imagine then we've got this section here, which one of the things that I've had to do a lot is fetch images from a URL. So we get the URL, and it's a string, and it's unique, and we download the bitmap, and then we put it into a hash. Say, for example, we use the string as the key, and the bitmap is the data that's aligned there, and then we've got that quick recall because it's using the hash. I'm pretending here that even though I'm loading this from just from the resource file, from the drawable file, this is where we perform that slow over a network fetching. And then we just set the image with that bitmap. Now, so obviously what will happen, if you just keep downloading, as I said before, you'll eventually run out of memory, and you'll get something that looks like this. And that out of memory error may not happen when you're in the list view. So I've had it happen at like random times where I'll be in a different activity, and it might have been close to running out of memory before, and then it runs out of memory in another one, and like what's going on here? This should be happening, and so it's a little bit of a pain. And so I just wanted, I guess, to share with you that when you see something like this, it's you kind of know how to deal with it. And the way that I went about it was to use let me get my slide. This is my slide. The memory analyzer tool. So you just basically add a remote site to Eclipse, and it downloads this plugin, and then you kind of use that in combination with DDMS, which is provided by the Android SDK. For what it's worth, I've added this text file to the GitHub, so if you want any of this stuff, you can just find that repo. Okay, so that's that. What I use to simulate, so what was happening, I was noticing this especially on rotation. So a lot of stuff, when you rotate the phone, it completely kills the current activity and all the memory that you've allocated for that, that one, and starts again. So it's actually quite a big operation that happens when you rotate the phone. And I didn't want to have to sit there rotating the thing myself in order to get it to crash. I wanted to write something that would automate that. And I have to say, the stuff that came with the standard Android stuff just wasn't great, wasn't that straightforward. So I found this thing called Robotium, which is the Selenium for Android, and the source is there, and you basically just add 2 external jars. So you go into project properties, and you add in these 2 there. So one's Java doc, and one's the actual source itself. What that does, if we open up the test folder, allows you to use, so this thing called, basically create a mock of the activity that you want to test. And you use that using this standard, which is just Android activity instrumentation test case 2, with the genericized, the parameterized image activity, which is the class that you're wanting to test, package, where it is. But the key object is this solo object. And it basically just allows you to call these things like rotate the phone, press this button, press this menu button, press this tab, all those kinds of things. And it was really helpful for me. It saved a lot of time, in my opinion, so I reckon it's not a bad one. And all this does then is it just rotates the phone. So repeatedly, it waits 3 seconds, rotates, blah, blah, blah. And in order to use this testing package, you have to add two things. One is this test runner, and the other is this tag, this instrumentation tag. So let's have a look at what that looks like then. So you go to the DDMS view, which I'm sure I'm sure you guys have used before. And you have to click one of the processes. So if I click this like a sieve and click on heap, now it won't do anything until you hit this little green cylinder here called, I think it's update heap. So